going on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a weekly live stream where we talk about news, current events, share, esoteric thoughts or ideas, as well as our movie review. And tonight we'll be continuing our theme of Fish Out of Water with the classic Dances with Wolves, starring Kevin Costner and Mary McDonnell, as well as Graham Greene. With me, as ever, is the homeboy Rob.
What's going on, everybody?
Yeah, lots of things going on. Lots of things going on.
Yeah. There is no. We have so much news going on right now that I don't know if we can't get to it all this week. We're gonna have to postpone some of it to next week because there's a lot going on that has nothing to do with the election, which is great. So I'm all excited about that. Just we're not gonna be able to get to it all this week.
For sure. But we're gonna hit on, I think, what we decided to be the most pressing topics of the day. We're going to be talking about the so-called Tik-Tok ban, as well as the various shenanigans going on with Boeing.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Which are interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I don't know where should we where do you want to start, Andy?
Why don't we start with the Boeing story? Not
right.
Just really quickly, but to clarify, I said Boeing, not boring.
No, it's not. Yeah, not boring. No, it's Boeing, the airplane company. So, we talked a number of months ago about. Remember, we had all those train derailments, and it was kind of stuffed by a lot of news media. I kind of feel like we've had a lot of plane failures recently. There's been a lot of issues with a lot of airline companies, and it's like, why are the planes being grounded? Because with all sorts of issues, or like they take off, but then they have to make these emergency landings, and it seemed like I was hearing a little bit more and more about that, where that's very odd, because that's not the plane safety records are actually very good. It's one of the safest forms of travel, but all of a sudden it feels like I'm hearing about all these safety issues, and you wonder
a lot of failures.
Yeah. Well, and you wonder, is this because it's like when something is so good, and it's one of those things, like when you don't hear about anything, it usually means that like everything's kind of going according to plan.
To quote the Joker.
But yeah, like an umpire in baseball. If you don't know that person's name, that means that they're doing a good job.
Right.
But when you know an umpire's name, it's because they're probably a shitty person. They're a shitty umpire, and they fuck up a lot of games. And all of a sudden, now I'm hearing about all of the all these issues with planes, and you wonder: is this the airline company? Is this something that's going on inside of the planes, or is this about the plane itself? And it seems like it was going on with a lot of the planes themselves. And I was like, man, what's going on? And I'm fairly close to the airline community. My dad's an aircraft engineer. My mom also works within the aircraft community as well. They work together. I used to work with them. So I kind of know a lot of the. Now, we weren't necessarily within commercial flight travel, but we dealt with more kind of on the cargo side of flight travel, kind of carrying
Right. So
cargo,
logistics.
to and more like to and from like around the world. But that's something completely different. But these are all what this is obviously the attention is around commercial flight travel. So from taking passengers to and from whatever their destinations are. And obviously, like the airline industry, as far as that goes, has been kind of a disaster, definitely within the last 4 years. I mean, airline travel within has been bad for since 9/11, but God, ever since COVID, it's been even more crazy. But this seemed like more egregious than even that. And what it turns out is that Boeing has a lot of problems. Their safety record is I don't know if it's like being masked but like there's been some exposés on Boeing showing that some of their planes are not up to snuff because they're cutting corners on safety. They're not doing the regular regulations. And the reason that we know about this is that there was a whistleblower who was a Boeing inspector. I don't know if he was specifically worked for Boeing or if he was just like an airline inspector. And it's like, you have all these violations that are potential issues. I think he actually did work for Boeing now that I think about it, because he was an internal Boeing employee saying it's like, these are all issues on your plane, and they tried to silence him because he was finding too many issues. And he ended up essentially being released from Boeing, and he ended up becoming a whistleblower and was filing a lawsuit against them. And he was testifying against. I mean, he'd been kind of like running the gamut of like telling the world about the problems that Boeing was having. And then all of a sudden, he decides, kind of like Jeffrey Epstein, he just decides to kill himself in the middle of all of that, which seems very suspicious.
Right, yeah, because he was like, if I'm remembering correctly, he was like still in like the middle of some depositions that he was giving, and those closest to him, they didn't say like, oh yeah, he seemed like down, or like there was like a real dark cloud over him through all this. Quite the opposite. That he was very eager to go and make his deposition, and eventually get to court and and put it down on the record of what he's seen. So yeah, this supposed suicide or alleged suicide is highly suspicious, especially given the time.
The time frame, and like I said, who did it? If he was murdered, who did it? Like, is it Boeing? Is it because Boeing also has a lot of government contracts. Is it the government that is to be responsible on this too? And it's just like it doesn't seem kosher to me. This just seems very weird, and the fact that like there was insider information about where actual Boeing engineers who are putting together these planes and being asked, would you fly on this plane? Yeah, probably not. That's crazy. Now, not every plane in the sky is a Boeing plane.
Right.
So it's just more of like, because, and even like within an airline, it's not all one airplane company. Boeing doesn't own the entirety of the.
Yeah, they don't hold the trademark on like airplane designs.
Yeah, they're a manufacturer. So like, just if you think of like Toyota or Chevrolet or whoever, like, within the car company range, that's kind of like what happens in the airline industry. Boeing is not the only person putting planes out.
They're not the only name in the
travel.
game.
Exactly. So, but their planes specifically are the ones that have been having the issues of like what we've been seeing in the news.
I mean, it even goes back even before like all of like the doors flying off or whatever, and like the whistleblower. What is it? I believe it's the Boeing 737 Supermax. It was having like, and that was more.
So the two planes specifically that Boeing's been having issues with, the safety wise. The 737 has been a problem, and then like their new plane, which is a 787, which is the Supermax. That's the really big plane, which they had been working on for a long time.
Right.
Which they cut a lot of corners on. That has been having a lot of issues.
Right. But I believe, this all of a sudden, like these things happening. It's it's not that it's all of a sudden that this stuff has been happening. But it's like slowly, but more and more incidents have been coming up. I mean, again, like I think just like 6 or 7 years ago, there's all those stories of those planes like crashing. And they just so happened to be Boeing's. And it was actually what was at least what the official story was, is that the software that they had developed to help the pilots, was malfunctioning, but then it kind of gets you start to think, at least hopefully it starts to make you wonder, like, why would they need this software to help pilots, and then I think I'm not 100% sure on this.
Well, that part is not unusual, because people don't realize that when it comes to air flight, it's actually a very disorienting thing, because there is an eyesight. Actually, there's two different ways as far as flight travel goes. And there's a licensing that pilots have to go through. They have to go through is an eyesight test where they're working through like what they can see and how they can maneuver the plane. But there's a lot of times where you're in situations where the eyesight is you are disoriented, and it's not because there's anything wrong with the pilot themselves, but they have to work through the instrumentation, because maybe you're going through a lot of fog. Maybe you're there's all sorts of scenarios where you need the instrumentation, because that's going to help you fly the plane at your destination where you need to go, and you're not going to be flying the plane upside down or something crazy that could happen based off of like how your sight lines are.
Okay, but yeah, but what I was trying to get to, but it was the special software or whatever, the special program that they had developed, to help pilots. Yeah, okay, but more often than not, it was also to help maybe less qualified pilots to be able to handle the plane.
That's also true. Well, with all the diversity,
right? And then again, this was
for the airline
before people even before people associated DEI with the woke nonsense, like that. This program was kind of like what is it? It was like the first step towards that, because it's like now like you have airlines saying like, oh yeah, we're going to consider people with mental problems for our pilot program. It's like, what the hell are you? What the hell did you just say? So like this is like kind of like the first this is kind of like the first little temperature bump in like the boiling frog thought exercise of conditioning people into accepting essentially lunacy. Because it's like, It's like, oh yeah, we're developing this program. Oh yeah, because it's very taxing on the pilot, to read their instruments, and it hurts their eyes. And so we're developing this thing to help them out. It's like, and then like quickly under their breath they'd be like, oh yeah, and also help like the less qualified pilots. It's like, but no, but it helps everybody. It helps everybody. And so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So again, it's just like that one little like tick up, on the stove.
But yeah, it's just crazy to hear that's going on, because like I said, the airline safety records are so good, and now it feels like, why are you cutting corners?
I mean, just think about how rare it is you hear on the evening news about a plane going down, or something malfunctioning on an airplane. Like,
you might hear about like one every 4 years, maybe.
Yeah.
It's very.
But yeah, and you might be you could be cynical and say like, oh well, they're just covering it up. It's like, but if it was happening at the rate that like some people might be implying, it's like there's no way that the media could cover up, or the companies themselves could cover it up.
Yeah, well, and that's what's happening now. Now it's happening at such a degree where it's not, you can't cover it up anymore. The fact that you're having like 4 or 5 failures, that doesn't mean that people are dying, but it means that all of a sudden there's a failure on the plane. We have to make an emergency landing. You have to report. That's going to be on the record. You're having a plane that, for whatever reason, you have a number of these that happen over time. And not only are you going to have people on the plane talking about it, but it is going to be on the public record, because that is all the stuff that happens in the flight towers and all that stuff. That is public record. There is a report of all that stuff going on. So, and they are going to do a investigation as to what happened on the plane. And they write down what the manufacturer of the plane is, what the problem happened was. It is down to the minute detail. So you can't hide that.
Right.
That's why this is happening right now.
Indeed.
And I could totally see people who are already afraid to fly. This is nightmare fuel to them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I had to go somewhere in like October. I had to go to my sister-in-law's graduation in Canada. It's like, fuck, I don't know if the plane is a Boeing. I'm like, fuck that, dude. I don't want to be on the plane.
Yeah, or it's like what color? It's like what color is the pilot?
The fuck, that's the other thing. Like, I don't listen. I don't give a crap who the pilot is. All I care about is like, what is their experience? I don't care what color their skin is, what their gender is. What is their experience as a pilot? Don't give me like I fucked all the diversity hires and all that shit. Like, are they a competent pilot that can physically get me through like whatever? They're mentally capable and they're physically able to get me through whatever like danger zone that there is. And I mean, this wasn't even a fucking question 5 years ago. And now it's like, well, we need to have like diverse pilots, and that's because the government is fucking involved. This is the problem, like with 2001 and the Patriot Act and all this other bullshit, is that the government has become more and more involved within the airline industry because of Homeland Security, and because the government is involved, and especially with who's in power in the government. So you have these crazy ass people who are like, well, we need to be more diverse, and we need to make sure that we're more inclusive, and we need to have people who are mentally handicapped and their skin color is not white. And who the fuck cares? I want someone who can fly the fucking plane. I don't give a goddamn like what their skin color is or what their whatever other problem they have. Can they fly the fucking
Yeah.
plane?
Yeah.
Just like with any other thing that is in my life. Can they do the job? Who gives a fuck what their skin color is? That's the whole point of like diversity, right? If the guy is black but he's competent, who gives a damn? If he's Mexican and like maybe he's not even from this country, but he can do the job, who gives a shit? Who cares? God, I fucking hate this stuff. Like, who gives a fuck what their skin color is? Can they do the job?
Yeah, I mean that's really the issue. I mean, and don't get me wrong, there is something. Okay, this is gonna be a hot take, but please don't take this out of context. But I don't think there's anything wrong with prejudging. Okay, because
No,
we all do it.
You're not gonna get
we all do it. Okay, you might say that. Oh no, I'm not. I don't prejudge or I'm not prejudiced. The fuck you are. All right. Because if I can, let's say you had a band, right? And you're looking for a piano player, and I came to the audition. I was seeking the job of pianist. Me with these. Would you not?
No one thing you're gonna hand you have to prove yourself like double
exactly
or triple.
Exactly, but aren't you? But but you're prejudging me, right? That I wouldn't be until I have demonstrated otherwise.
Exactly. Everyone fucking does it. That's the thing,
right? If I had a face tattoo and I came and I was trying to apply for a nanny job, would you not? Yeah, I mean, given the fact that I'm a man, but like if I had a face tattoo, if a woman had a face tattoo, like and she came to apply for a nanny position for my child, fuck no, I'm not letting her near my kid.
Fuck no, exactly. That's everyone does it. Every skin color, every creed, color, race, religion does that. It's because it's fucking smart. Now, those people can prove you wrong. Don't get me wrong. Like those people can prove you wrong. But you know what? It's still smart to do that because statistics will say that, you know what? Maybe don't have the person that has fuck God on their, tattooed on their face. Maybe I don't want to have them watching my kids, or the guy who seems a little bit skeevy, around my young daughters, or and it isn't just looks. It's like a resume. If your resume does not show that you are not qualified, if your resume shows that you are not qualified for the job, you should not then be butthurt about you not getting an opportunity to interview or being passed up. Yeah, like when it comes to something that has a little bit more skills and you don't really have the resume for that, and it's not about trust me, it is not about your skin color or what. It's about your experience, and you don't have the experience, so they're not going to hire you.
I've applied to plenty of jobs where I'm not qualified, but I still applied, and I'm not surprised if I don't hear back from them or they pass on me.
Exactly. And what when it comes to that too, where it's like, now when it's like McDonald's not hiring you because you don't have enough work experience, maybe then you can be like, are you fucking kidding me? This is an entry-level job. This is like the entry level of entry-level jobs. There's no you can.
Yeah, you don't.
that
Yeah, you
is
don't need a
a
master's
local-
degree to flip burgers. I mean, in this day and age, you kind of do, but you know,
like if that's the case, like now you're being discriminatory. That's the whole point. Like, whereas like, come on, this is not like something that requires a whole lot of
mhm,
skill. The skills that it requires, you can teach that person when they get
mhm,
there. But it's more of like, okay, you're willing to do the job, you're willing to do the hours, whatever we say, boom,
yeah,
you're
bing,
hired.
bang, boom.
But like, I don't need a fucking bachelor's degree and like $40,000 worth of debt from college to go to Burger King or
Mhm,
McDonald's. But if I'm going to something that does have like some skills, I could understand like where there'd be a little bit more discriminatory. Like, you haven't worked in this industry, you don't know you don't have the skills that we're looking for, where this other person does.
mhm,
Okay, I kind of get that.
right.
Um, so yeah, it just, but everyone fucking does it.
Yeah.
And it's, or like, you know what, that they're going through the interviews, and they look at you, it's like, yeah, you know what, I don't know if I want the pink, I don't know if I want the the short pink haired nose ring wearing lesbian looking person. I don't know if I want that.
Particularly septum. Oh my god, those people.
Yeah, I don't know if I want that person at my
Mhm,
work, in my life, because I know this person is probably more often than not, this person is going to be the problem.
right.
Now you can't say that, but it's like, you don't have to hire that person.
That's true, but I mean, yeah, more and more, with government encroaching into like small business, making, having, uh, what's the word? Why can't I talk today? Um,
Well, I
quotas,
can't see your face
yeah,
either.
quotas.
Maybe that's like,
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, like we're kind of we're flying blind here a little bit. Uh, what is it? Because for some reason my camera isn't working for Rob, so you guys can see me, but Rob can't see me. Which is the cruelest fate for Rob.
I'm devastated. I can't see Andy's pretty face, so I'm just
I
guessing.
know. Yeah, but yeah, this whole
Yeah.
Boeing situation is just. Gosh. I mean, I'm not planning on flying anytime soon, but it just goes to show you, like this poisonous, ideology, and I mean, it's really affecting everything. It's like it's affecting the quality of work, a product being put out by companies, and just like and the way it's slowly curtailing a certain people's ability to speak, to express themselves, while completely opening it up for others.
Yeah, this is where, like, honestly, like, if I was a betting man, because the Boeing stock is actually way, I mean, it's still expensive, but it's way
Hmm.
down. This would be a time to invest in
Hmm.
Boeing, because they're not, knowing what I know about how, I mean, the government definitely does kind of play
Hmm.
favorites in
Yeah, they pick
in
winners and
stock
losers.
in stocks. And you have a lot of, I guarantee that you have a lot of politicians that have stock in
Hmm.
Boeing. They're not going to let this
Hmm.
fly, and that stock is going to go back way up.
Hmm.
So if you're wanting some politician stock tips right now, fucking buy in
Hmm.
Boeing. Because I'll tell you this, like, it's gone. They over the course of like the last couple of months, they have lost, I think, like 100 points off their
Hmm.
stocks, and it's not gonna continue that way. I
Oh
guarantee
no, of
it.
course, yeah, like, yeah. It's in the news now, but sure enough, it's gonna quiet down again, and and the stocks in it get back up.
Yeah. So if you have the money, buy in Boeing right now because this is the best time to buy when they are at their lowest in what 10 years.
Absolutely.
Because the government has a lot of stock in Boeing too, so they're not going to let that. They're not going to just let that collapse into nothing. They're not. It's not going to be like
Wait, I mean, like when
the
in stock, do you mean like literal like equity in the company, or are they like they have like a lot riding on Boeing? Being that they are, being that they
because
are military contractors, being that they are military contractors.
So yeah, because for two things, you have politicians who have invested in Boeing, like they have stock in
Right.
Boeing,
No, but I
guaranteed.
meant like,
But
yeah,
then
but I meant
you also have the government who has put a whole bunch of contracts in Boeing.
right. But I meant like, do you mean like they literally have stocks? Like the government proper has like has a stake within Boeing.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they do. Like they have probably put money. They have in, whether it's in the stock market, but they have invested probably trillions of dollars into Boeing. In the company itself.
Yeah, I was just curious if you meant. Yeah, I was just curious if you meant like they literally have like equity, like the United States government holds shares within Boeing, or that they or it's because of the amount of money, because the U.S. government is such a reliable client in Boeing that. Like the American government literally, not literally, but figuratively has a lot at stake with Boeing.
Yeah, so I think figuratively they have a lot at stake with Boeing because of how much money they have put into that company, through contracts and whatever. But I actually have a feeling through like some sort of like shell company or through like Patsy's, they have money invested in Boeing.
Okay, for sure.
I would not be surprised, just with how our government works right now, and with a lot of the corruption that is going on. I guarantee that because Boeing is not. This is not a private company. This is one of those weird. It's a private company that is also a government.
Yeah, private-public partnerships. Yeah, like literal fascism. This is literal fascism.
Yeah, which is disgusting.
Yeah, for all of those people.
And I'm not saying like I said, I don't bash Boeing for that, because Boeing is like, hey, they're a company that's looking after money, but the government has, because they have kind of through the idea of Homeland Security, they have kind of taken advantage of the airline community in a way that they've never done that before. And so pretty much most airline companies have some sort of government stake in them. And like I said, I don't blame those companies. Like that's not, and just like the airline companies, they like your Southwest and your American Airlines and United Airlines and whoever, they have a stake through the U.S. government because of Homeland Security. Pretty much any U.S. based airline company that you fly through is hand in glove with the U.S. government.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, when was it?
Why do you think it's so shitty?
Yeah, I mean,
Why do you think it's so shitty to fly?
Yeah, and just think about during the bailout, like who was the first ones, like back in like 2007, 2008, who was the first ones to get bailed out? The airlines.
Airline companies. Yep. Instead of just like like the East India Trading Company, back in the day, let these like giant companies that just don't.
Let them fail, and then let something else fill the vacuum.
fuck them. Yeah, exactly. Fuck those companies who don't let the government just back these companies. Oh, too big to fail. I mean, that's now the kind of the nomenclature nowadays. Oh, they're too big to fail. So the majority of our banks, the majority of the pretty much the entirety of the airline industry, not only the like the companies that we fly with, but the actual plane companies themselves are backed by the U.S. government.
Yeah, they ain't going nowhere. Yeah, which is sad, yeah, because they're artificially propped up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine. I mean, maybe to agree they might be, but just imagine if Coke was being propped up by the government, and just like. So like
exactly.
So like in like 200 years, like Coke will still be a thing. Like imagine Coke still being a thing 200 years from now, and like it's because through artificial propping up.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I remember there was a story about this of this Japanese company that was first established in like the 1400s, and just like I think like 10 years ago, like failed. Like I think they went bankrupt, and like and the company went belly up. Like the Japanese government didn't come in and like save them, even though like they had like the storied history. It's like, oh, it's one of the oldest companies in Japan, and da da da. It's like, no, they're like, you fail.
Yeah, which is smart. It's not our fault that like what is it, like 700 years later that whoever's running the company fucked it up.
Yeah, I mean, just like what if the government propped up Sears?
Well, I mean, our government, it would fucking surprise me. But
yeah, Sears
exactly.
Sears has this long storied history. Like Sears is again like hand in glove with with American history. Like they were critical for the expansion. Westward. Because Sears was literally selling prefab houses for settlers.
What's funny is that when the government gets involved with companies, it reminds me of that moment in Goodfellas when the restaurant that they all like go to, and they run up these like large Tommy was like running up these like large tabs that they couldn't cover, that the restaurant couldn't cover. It's like, I don't know what to do. Paulie, can you do something about this? Well, why don't you take over part of the restaurant? And then the mob gets involved with the restaurant, and what do?
They burn it down for the insurance money.
They run it into the ground until they can't cipher any more money off of it, and then they burn it to the ground.
For the insurance money.
That is what the U.S. government does with these businesses that they get involved with, that they bail out. Those are like, the company has failed. It's bankrupt. It's done. But the government gets involved and props them back up so that they can cipher some sort of money or some sort of equity in that company until like maybe the government fails at some point, and it's like, well, we can't prop you up anymore.
I mean, essentially, that's what happened in North Korea, because in North Korea, like when the Soviet Union was still a thing, like all they quality of life was pretty decent, but only because they were being subsidized by the Soviet Union. But then when the Soviet Union fell back in the early 90s,
and China's not even really helping them anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Either.
And then when the Soviet Union fell in the early 90s, North Korea, they had a famine. In the mid 90s, like 94. And it's really sad. Like millions of people died of starvation. But this is what happens when you allow government to artificially artificially prop you up.
I mean, the whole idea of the United States is a form of limited government.
Mm-hmm.
Not no government, because you need to have something.
Right, because you as an individual
But-
can't be dealing with, foreign powers or whatever. Like, each individual citizen can't deal individually with another country. So you have to have an intermediary, a representative, to deal on your behalf.
Exactly. So government is necessary.
Right,
I'm not saying it
Right,
isn't.
yeah. We're not crazy.
The problem is that people have I think people over the course of time, people have become lazy and have allowed people to run our government, and given them more and more power without them really knowing it. And when you keep pushing that line further and further and further, and all of a sudden we get to the point where we're at today, where the government has just run amok,
Mm-hmm.
and it's it seems like no matter what we do, we can't get the people who are supposed to be the real power of the government no longer have that power.
Mm-hmm. Right, because because it wasn't supposed to be, the leaders are supposed to be the bosses. No, like the citizen, they're the bosses of the leaders.
Exactly.
But when you get it twisted around, that's how you get oligarchy. And
well, we're pretty much at
and for those of you who who doesn't understand what oligarchy is, because it's a big it's a big fancy word. It just means rule of many. Or rule of the few. Rule of the few.
Yeah, and next week, we're not going to talk about it this week, but we're definitely going to talk about it next week. Where even people who claim that they're on our side, who you're not necessarily people in the government, but people who are have power, who are pundits on our side, or who claim to be on our side, who are actively working against us. We're going to talk about that next week, because that's definitely something I want to talk about. Where it's just I'm just flabbergasted at just why. That's especially people who do so much good for us, or who have done a lot of good work for our side. Yet at the same time, they kind of shoot us and themselves in the foot with the public, and just what the fuck are you doing? You're not helping anybody, and you are essentially making things worse on our side. Now we no longer have you to rely on. We have more. It just I like I said, that's next week, because it goes along with this as well. Just God, there's so much going on right now that it's just driving me up a wall.
Absolutely. All right.
But yeah, I wanted to. I felt like that Boeing story was really important. And trust me, I've worked with Boeing, the company I used to work for. We have done a lot of projects with Boeing. We were one of the Boeing contractors. We did a lot with them. We have done we have done a lot with them. I think the company still. I'm not with the company anymore, but I think they still do stuff with Boeing. So it's not I'm not throwing shade on the company I used to work for, because I think they do good work. I think it's not because of the group I used to work with. It's not their problem, but there is something going on within Boeing the people who are actually there, who are they're cutting corners for the sake of whatever executives' profits that need to be made, or the shareholders' profits, and it's like the safety be damned, employees be damned kind of thing.
Yep.
Because the people who are not going to face any of the consequences are the executives. They're not going to jail. They're going to get a nice golden parachute.
Oh, yeah.
Even if they get fired. Fuck that, man. It's such bullshit.
Indeed. Anything else to? Anything else to add?
No, I have nothing. I have nothing else on that. Let's get to the next topic.
Well, all right. Yeah, for those of you unaware, the Congress has been kicking around this so-called TikTok, this bill that's supposedly going to ban TikTok. But on closer scrutiny, we find that this might be actually a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah. So, now now I've heard good arguments on both sides on this, and I know the House House of Representatives has passed this bill. Now it's the charge of the Senate. What's the Senate gonna do if they are also going to pass the bill? And then it goes to, obviously, like, if the president, whoever the president is at the time, what do they decide? If they decide to veto it, or if if they sign off on it. And then obviously it also goes to maybe like a Supreme Court thing, if there's something that's unconstitutional about it, where well, no, we can't do this because it's unconstitutional. And what's happening is that we've known for a while that obviously TikTok is a Chinese-owned company, and China obviously has done a lot as far as utilizing computer code to spy on American citizens, and TikTok is one of those things that they've done, and that is a proven fact. That is exactly what's happening. And you also have to realize that the TikTok that they have in China is a completely different thing over there.
Right.
It's not what we have over here in other countries. It's something completely different that's more restricted and is much more wholesome. What it's supposed to be. It is an educational app that has allowed to but has been allowed in other countries to just be like, fuck it, whatever you like, whatever crazy shit that you guys are dealing with, you allow it to happen over there. No, that's kind of what's happening. And so there has been some push with a lot of politicians, a lot of the ones that we like, who have said we need to have some sort of maybe TikTok ban or restrictions. Sounds like a plan to me, because I think it's a shitty app, and I think it has done a lot of damage. But then, you know how it is, like when we get these bills in government where it's like, we're calling it the TikTok bill, but then there's all this other shit that's put into place, and it's from one side it feels like, well, how the wording is, it could be used as some sort of, it's not solely focused on TikTok, but it could be utilized against other things that are deemed as you're working against the United States government. Okay. And there's some truth to that. And then there's other people who will say, like, well, no, it is that it outside of like a lot of other bills, this is actually very specific to certain countries. And if U.S. properties that are working with those governments that are deemed as anti-American, well, they if they are working within a certain percentage of something, then they're it's not that they're not a part of this. But if they move any further past that, and if they are actually working against United States concerns, well, then they could be banned. And and there's a lot of these social media companies that are not really working. They are what I would say they would consider themselves global citizens. They're not a United States company. They don't really care about that. They're thinking about global concerns and the global dollars that they can generate, whether it be through Facebook or whatever. So I really don't know what to make of this bill. Like, it doesn't uh, in if I'm just looking at it, it seems like it might be a good idea, but at the same time, I could see like where you get some crazy government employee who's like, well, we can use this to work into our favor and work to silence things that should not be silenced, and we're going to be working against the First Amendment.
Right.
That's
Well, I mean, just recently
so
you had what is it? I forget what they were hearing arguments for, but our favorite non-biologist, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown, you know, yeah, she
yeah.
made the argument, like saying she made the argument, or she countered one of the lawyers arguing like that the American government should have the ability to essentially quell free speech. It's like, oh well,
Of course,
basically why
yeah, of
shouldn't
course,
the government be
of course
allowed
it
to
did.
censor certain information, that's harmful or or that could be misleading. It's like, but then you're begging the question. It's and I mean that in the proper debate sense, meaning that you're assuming that information is misleading or dangerous. You haven't yet established that it is. So, like, who is to say that information is wrong or misleading or dangerous?
Yeah, exactly. It's more of yeah,
Right. But
it's
yeah, and like I know, and a lot
well,
of
Ketanji Jackson. She can't stand the Constitution. So who gives a shit about the first or whatever
right.
amendments
Yeah, but
that don't
I'm sure she's
apply
really
to
in favor. I'm
shit
sure
she
that she's really in
wants?
favor of the 19th. Right. That's the only absolute amendment, right? Because I mean,
Why don't we and let's see what she thinks
I
about
know,
that.
right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, these people are like they're telling on themselves because they constantly are saying, because like even Biden has been saying like, oh, no amendment is absolute. It's like, all right, let's put that to the test. The 19th is the 19th Amendment absolute? Hell, is the 14th Amendment absolute?
Yeah.
I could use a helper around to clean my room and wash my drawers and cook my meals for me at no pay. A helper. I could use
Yeah,
I could use
exactly.
a helper.
Yeah.
It,
For real. Like, I mean, it's like they say this shit, but like the only ones that they're targeting are like the ones that are actually helpful to the United States
mhm,
citizens.
exactly.
It's
So
just
yeah, and I mean and also with like this whole TikTok banning bill, a lot of pundits have been and a lot of common sense pundits, they see it for what it, they've been, kind of calling it the, Patriot Act, 2.0, yeah,
2.0.
because essentially, yeah, like whatever,
That's
yeah,
what like
it's vaguely the terms are vaguely defined, and the power is left up to the president, and so if the president deems that certain and it's not even just TikTok the app. They do a blink. They include websites. So if a website is
Yeah,
declared
that's more.
harmful or putting out propaganda or fake news or false information or malinformation or whatever fucking word that they come up with, the president can essentially nuke that site. So let's say the president decides that the competitor of YouTube, Rumble, is perpetuating propaganda or false information or misinformation. He would then
Yeah,
theoretically have
exactly.
the ability to nuke that website.
And that's where it makes more sense, like when guys like Trump, Vivek Ramaswamy, I think Rand Paul was against
Mm-hmm.
it. So pretty much all the people who have had some sort of like finger on the pulse within the last like 10 years on stuff. Um yeah, I'm a little bit like more thinking that maybe they're onto something. Maybe that's why like they're against this and why they voted why they are against such a thing.
Indeed.
Because yeah, it just I don't know. Oh, we need there's so much bipartisan support of this. Why do you think that that is? Why do you think that there's certain leftists that want this to happen?
Right, because it will then give them keys to the kingdom. So, when their guy's in control. I mean, not to say that Biden isn't their guy, but someone who's more, because despite Biden's like pandering and whatever, he at the heart of it, he's still like the old school kind of Dixiecrat sort of Democrat. He's
Right.
not one of these far left ideologues where it's like, yeah, cut off your dick and call me Samantha.
Yeah.
He's not one of those kind of liberals. Um, and so like he's gonna do what's best for him, and if it's not advantageous for him to do so, he's not gonna go after the left's enemies. Which is basically everyone.
Yeah, he's not be like, whoa, that's a chick with a dick. That's weird.
That's a pretty good Biden, I have to say. That's a pretty good Biden. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, as good. Yeah, as good as I do an Obama. That one was pretty. Your Trump. Your Biden is pretty good.
I do his whisper pretty
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. Chick with the dick. Oh man, that was good.
But yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that because it just seems like uh, there's there's enough disagreements on it where I'm like, yeah. And when you actually look at the what the bill is saying, and I actually, which is crazy. Like normally I don't do this, but I was like, I got to look at the highlights of this bill that are, what are they trying to implement? And it doesn't look
Nope.
good. It does look like someone can, that there's a lot of loopholes that can be used for bad.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, the pundits who have, I think, correctly, you know, analyzed this and dubbed this, Patriot Act 2.0, are correct. And if you don't see that, then you are truly blind, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it.
Not a fan. Not a fan.
And the thing is, I was not old enough to really understand. Like at the time, I was old enough like where like I knew what the Patriot Act was, what the idea of it
Mm-hmm.
was, and I think you and I are the same. Where it's like that seems like a good idea,
Right.
because you're thinking about like foreign terrorism, and we want to target foreign
Mm-hmm.
terrorism. Cool, right? That seems like a good idea. and that has been rubber stamped for our entire, pretty much our entire adulthood. And now that is being used against American citizens, it's like that's not the point. That was not what this was intended for.
You forgot to read the fine
Because
print.
now you can interpret like, oh well, this political group is against America, and because they don't they don't agree with whatever crazy leftist bullshit policies that we want to enact unconstitutionally, they're terrorists. Oh, parents want to they don't want their kids having their sons' dicks cut off, or their daughters breast giving mastectomies for their breast. Terrorists.
Yeah, or like oh, your parents don't want your kids to have access to pornography. It's like, oh, you're total terrorists.
Terrorists.
It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that Parks and Rec meme where it's like straight to jail.
Yeah.
Instead of straight to jail, I was like, you are terrorist. He's like, you don't.
Afuera!
I know. It's like he's like, you don't want child with pornography, terrorist. It's like you think there are only two gender, terrorist.
Straight to jail. It's for real. It's crazy. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not 100% sold on it. It just anything that at this point, anything that's like completely bipartisan, that just it just makes sense to both sides. I don't fucking like it, because most of the time it's just leftist bullshit that we to be honest, like the way that we write legislation, that needs to be revamped in this country completely. All these because all these bills have jargon that is pretty much like unrecognizable to the American public. It's too long, and it always has some other stuff that's not actually supposed to be on the bill to begin with. You have a name for the bill, and
the puppies are cute. Act. Like who
the puppies are cute and save the perverts bill. That's what it is. That it's not. It's never. We need to have We need to have single issue bills. They need to be in simple language that can be understood by anybody.
Exactly.
And
you know what? That should be going forward. That should be the litmus test. It's like it has to be two. Like let's say, okay, the bill has to be 2 pages, and an 8-year-old has to be able to read it and say that makes sense.
You know what? I will give dumbass AOC credit. At least her Green New Deal bill was like 5 pages with like in bullet points. It's like Ringo Starr putting up a song for the Beatles.
Let's put it on the refrigerator.
Good for you, buddy.
Put it on the refrigerator.
Good job. Yeah. It's like, it's not good, but hey, you know what? That's kind of like what I'm looking for. That is what the people need. We don't need like some 5,000-page omnibus bill on some crazy. No, none of this stuff. Not again. Stop with that. Oh, you need to pass it to understand what's in it.
No. Fuck that.
Fuck you, Nancy Pelosi and other bullshit leftists. No. And I don't want our side doing that either. Make it fucking simple so everyone can be able to read and understand it and be able to vote, and to allow the they want to. That's how you trust your representatives that you vote for to vote for this stuff. Keep it simple. To be honest, I kind of want to look at like what, maybe some of the initial like bills in U.S. history were for like, as far as like passing legislation. I want to see how it looked like back in the 18th century, 18th and 19th century, as opposed to now.
Yeah, I'm sure the language there would be a lot simpler, and I mean, and I'm sure it didn't. I'm sure it didn't exceed 10 pages.
I'm very sure of that. That might be some interesting research just to look into like past bills back in
Yeah.
the day, and like what the reason like why some got passed and some didn't, why, and that actually might be an interesting topic to talk to talk about back in the in the future. And we'll do some maybe we'll do some research on that and make that a future segment.
Yeah. That could be cool.
Because the way it is nowadays is just it's fucking terrible.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Both on the state and the federal level. It's just it's insane.
Yeah. I had an interesting thought a while back, and just how messed up the political system is, in California specifically, and the fact that they have allowed, because for those of you who don't know, it's the deck is stacked so hard against like Republicans or like vaguely conservative people that you might as well not even attempt to run as a Republican or an independent here in California.
Fuck, dude, there's no shot. You have no shot. To be honest, what's his face? Garvey, Steve Garvey has been like the closest I've seen in 15 years.
Yeah.
Because I think he's still ahead at the moment,
Right.
but I don't know.
I'll address. I think he was only allowed to pass because they didn't want a divide. The Democrats didn't want a divided party because for either to go against either Adam Schiff or Katie Porter, they wanted a decisive victory. So that's why I believe Garvey was allowed, quote unquote, allowed to get into like the general.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Yeah. But I'm surprised that what is it? Like someone on the left hasn't come out and castigated, leadership, because what, especially for the primaries, what usually in other states, the Republicans have a primary, the Democrats have a primary, and whoever like the winners of those get advanced to the general. But in California, what we have is called a jungle primary. And that's like whoever has the first and second most votes, they're advanced to the runoff election in November.
Which is always
Democrat because again of the jungle primary, and I'm surprised no one on the far left came out and claimed that calling it a jungle primary was racist.
Yeah.
It's like, that's offensive.
Forget to get all those monkeys out to vote in our jungle primary.
Oh man, that was a good one. Yeah, man, Robert, you're on fire tonight. You are on fire.
Pissed off. That's why.
Yeah, but it was just funny because I was just thinking about it because they freaked out over some Nigerian child model wearing a hoodie that said "coolest monkey in the jungle," right? And they freaked, and they all freaked the fuck out. Yeah, but then they don't freak out about a jungle primary.
Yeah, it's like, come on.
I mean, I know it's asking a lot for them to be consistent. I understand that, but at least you I would think that at least like there'd be someone to be like, hey, that's offensive. Calling it a jungle primary, that's so offensive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
somebody.
somebody.
But remember, Democrats are racist. They don't give a shit. And they're gonna accuse like the other party or other people of being what they are. So in reality, they think they're like dance monkeys in our jungle primary. That's what they're thinking. Because they think that they own the black vote, they think that they own the whatever
Yeah,
skin
whatever
color vote,
demographic vote.
the
Yeah.
gay vote. Yeah, whatever demographic vote, they think that they own that. So they're gonna call it whatever the fuck they want because whatever, they're gonna just dance for our
Yeah, they're gonna dance. They're
our
gonna
thing.
dance to the tune that we play.
Exactly. So fuck them. That's how they feel about
Yeah.
you. Whereas like actual like conservatives or normal people don't feel that way ever at all. No one's thinking like, well, man, they're not thinking some like crazy racist thought. We're not calling our primaries jungle primaries. Oh, the jungle.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah. Again, it's selective. It's a selective outrage because again, they freaked out about Trump saying that if he's not elected, then the automotive market is going to be a bloodbath. And they of course they selectively edited saying like, oh, if I'm not elected, it's going to be a bloodbath. Not of course taking out the first like 15 seconds to give it context of what he was actually talking about.
It's a tale as old as
Yeah.
time. I mean, I think people are like, I think regular people have caught on to that at this point. It's like, that's not what he said.
Mhm.
Come on. And it's like, and to be honest, like with the way our current president has run, who is not even fucking with us, or just people who are tired of like a lot of like this other stuff, like I think people are done with
Yeah.
that.
I think so.
I think the wizardry is over. To be honest, like I will actually be shocked at this point if Biden wins this time. I will never vote in another election ever again because it's completely rigged at that point. It's like what's the point?
I kind of feel like this is like that those two astronaut memes where it's like it's like, oh, it was flat. It's like it was like, and then the one with the gun behind him, it's like it was like this though. It was flat the entire time.
Yeah. So
And so
honestly,
like
like
yeah,
if
it
Biden
feels like
wins
yeah,
this time,
you're that one
will
astronaut.
it,
You're that one astronaut. Be like, I was like, it was rigged, and it was like and I'm like that other astronaut with the gun. It's like it was rigged the whole time.
no, seriously, if Biden wins this
Mm-hmm.
time, the Earth is flat. We never went to space.
Well,
The
as long as it gets you there, Robert. As
yeah,
long as it gets you there.
whatever conspiracy theory is out there, I'm just gonna believe that because whatever is against whatever the mainstream thing is, I'm just gonna believe that at that point because I don't believe in anything anymore.
Yeah. Whatever. At least whatever gets you there, right, Robert?
Yeah, there is no fucking way that Trump does not win this election. There's just no way. There is no way.
I,
Because even like Democrats don't even believe in Biden anymore.
yeah. I mean, what is it?
Look at the mainstream media. They don't like him. They think he's an
Yeah.
idiot.
What is it?
And like they don't outright say it, but like they're saying it.
Yeah, and I mean, what is it? The far left that the moderate Democrats embraced to win or try to win. Look what happened to them during the State of the Union. Like they protested Biden causing him to be delayed for the State of the Union,
Yeah.
and that's their side, quote unquote.
He was like what? He was like almost like 40 minutes late.
Yeah, exactly. Because
they
protested.
Yeah,
because they protested him.
Because he's a fucking idiot.
Because he won't he won't stand up against his true masters. Israel.
Yeah. Whoa! It's a parade for me. Whoa! Cool.
Say, oh, there! Look at all these!
Corn
look at all
Pop
these
is
dog-faced pony soldiers.
Yeah, Corn Pop is throwing a parade for me with my blonde leg hair standing up on edge, so the children can touch me.
And we'll take him behind the woodshed and do push-ups.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Oh man.
We have had a lot of shitty presidents in our time, but man, Biden is like he is heads above
he
the
takes
world.
the cake.
He is absolutely like top of the shit pile.
He takes the cake for sure.
Yes. I beg for the days of a Calvin Coolidge being the president.
Yes. Calvin Coolidge is my president. Okay, hashtag Calvin Coolidge is my president.
That is my hero as president.
He did nothing. He didn't expand the government.
No.
He didn't spend he didn't spend a solitary cent on anything. He shut down budgets and bills left and right. He swatted them out of the air. Bah, bah, bah.
Dude, if we had a Calvin Coolidge today, the government would be shut down for what? 3/4 of the year. He would fire most of these fucking people. And when it's like, cool. And that does not affect us in any way. In any way.
Yeah, because the fear mongering is like,
anyway,
the disabled and the veterans, they won't be getting their benefits. It's like, bitch, that shit is automatic. So you're not the one, you're not the one.
To be honest,
you're not the one.
If we don't spend
your representative, your congressman, your senator, they're not the ones strapping up the mailbag and walking your check to you.
Because you know what happens? Like, the money spent on Social Security, which I don't agree with, but whatever, that's a thing. The money that's spent on disability, or the money that's spent on actual American institutions, yeah, those are all American things. We're spending money on Americans. We're not spending $100 billion on fucking Ukraine, a country that I don't give two fucks about, and I hate their country, and I don't want to. I don't want to give a dime to them. And to be honest, I don't give as much as a fan of the Jews that I am. I don't give a fuck about Palestine and Israel.
Okay.
Let them fight their fucking battle.
Here's the clarification. You like the Jews, you don't give a shit about Israel.
Exactly. I don't. I do not. I don't give a fuck about Israel and Palestine. Let them blow themselves to fucking kingdom come, for all I'm concerned. Ukraine and Russia, I hate those countries. Fuck both of them. I don't give a goddamn about the Egyptian tourism that our country has been spending money on, or Monkey Island in South Carolina that Dr. Fauci was so interested in, or whatever other bullshit money that we're spending on dumb shit that doesn't matter.
I wasn't able to look into it very far, but Rand Paul he ranted about how they were spending money on trying to find out if monkeys could be transgender.
Yeah, that's the same island in South Carolina.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so because when you said Monkey Island, it's like is that the same thing? I couldn't remember because I kind of just heard about it in passing. So
yeah, Rand Paul has been doing this for a number of years, like where he has his transgressions against the U.S. government, and God, I wish he was my senator or some sort of like one of my representatives, because I mean of all the U.S. government, this man has my same spirit, who just like he hates the government, and unfortunately, he's not powerful enough to like really, he's one man against an army of too many, and so he does what he can with the power that he does have, and he has a
Yeah.
voice, and God bless
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, dude.
It's
Yeah, I
like,
really. I mean, as kooky as his dad was, yeah, dude, I really liked when he was running. I really liked him. Like, he was his dad was just making like so much sense. I was like, why the hell isn't this guy, running be the nominee? And even like what is it, Jon Stewart? He like back when he was like still somewhat reasonable. Even he was pointing that out on his show where like, Ron Paul, he was like he was doing he was in the lead, but in the chart they put him on the third line to make it look like he was like
yeah,
third popular. But it's like he had like 30 something. He
yeah,
had like 37% or something of the vote versus like the first two guys that they put up. They had like 17 and 20 and 23% or whatever.
hmm
So it's like dude, like that guy got Ron Paul got screwed over big time.
yeah. It's just one of those things where, yes, what do you do
Yeah.
at that point? It's they're just gonna.
Yeah, I remember it was really funny because I remember when I was in school, I just I watched the debates or I watched sections of parts of the debate on YouTube, and I came into one of my classes one day, and this is when I was still like kind of like politically neutral, but I was just like, man, that Ron Paul, man, he's really smart. He makes a lot of sense. I really hope he becomes the nominee. And I was like,
Yep.
I didn't really even really care about politics, but I was like, I really hope that he becomes the nominee for the Republican Party. And like I remember my teacher and one of my other classmates, they like looked at each other and like they looked at me like weird. But it's just like this was me back then. It's
Yeah,
like
of course they do.
when I still thought like everything was like still like fair and like it's like, oh, you let the best man win and that kind of thing. But I just remember like they just like even though like
Yeah,
I didn't say that I was a Republican, but I was just like, man, he makes a lot of sense. I hope he becomes the nominee. I didn't say that. I didn't say that I
exactly.
hope he becomes president. I just said I hope he becomes the nominee to run for the Republicans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they all like fucking looked at me like I had three heads.
You may have had three heads.
Well,
You're like a
I
hydra.
say because I already I kind of say we already have men already have two heads because the one on top of our shoulders and one between our legs. But
But yeah, man, it's just yeah. I'm always a little concerned when you have the mainstream government on both sides. I mean, like at this point, it's just the House. I don't. It's been yet to be determined if like what the Senate's gonna say about this bill. It's not like a passed law yet, but it just concerns me enough where I'm like, this doesn't seem right, and the people that are speaking out against it are to me are people that I tend to agree with on most things. So I'm a little concerned. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
indeed.
And even like the people that I do agree with on like a lot of things, they're saying like, well, we like this, and it's so I'm like, I don't know. It's a little weird to me, and both sides make good points, and these are all people that are they're not. Yeah, do both sides have a bias to a degree? Yes, they do, but they're also honest to a degree, and so I'm like, oh man, I don't really know what to do with this, and I just wanted to bring this to your attention and to our audience attention, because it's a big deal. This is a big thing that's happening.
Absolutely.
But that's all I have to say about that, and we're definitely gonna have more to talk about next week. We'll have a lot of stuff to talk about, but I think we need a palate cleanser, Andy.
Yep. All right, so let's get into with the topics fully discussed and talked about. Let's get into our movie review. And just to remind y'all, this month's theme is fish out of water. So it's movies, movie dealing with culture shock and people in other contexts. So, and tonight's movie is Dances with Wolves, starring Kevin Costner, from 1990. I think I might be wrong, but this might be one of the last like multi-hour movies with an intermission. But Robert can substantiate that for me when he gets back. Well, let me hit everyone with the synopsis and we'll get going. A Civil War soldier develops a relationship with a band of Lakota Indians. Attracted by the simplicity of their lifestyle, he chooses to leave his former life behind to be with them. Having observed him, they give the name Dances with Wolves. Soon he's a welcome member of the tribe and falls in love with a white woman who has been raised in the tribe. Tragedy results when Union soldiers arrive with designs on the land. And again, this movie came out in 1990, starring Kevin Costner, Mary McDonnell, Graham Greene, Rodney A. Grant, Maury Chaykin, Charles Rocket, Tantu Cardinal, West Studi.
West Studi. So West Studi you might recognize from movies like Last of the Mohicans. He's a famous Native American actor. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He's pretty popular. Now, you had said you've never seen this before, right, Andy?
I've started to watch. I've seen bits of it, but I never watched it like completely straight through. Oh, and then one more thing before we is this one of the last modern multi-hour movies with an intermission?
So I didn't have an intermission in the version that I watched.
Okay. Well, the version I watched did have like an intermission card.
Oh, so now that I'm thinking about it, if you did that, so did you watch like a director's cut or something? Where did you watch your version of Dances with Wolves? Because like mine was over 3 hours, obviously. So where did you watch yours?
On the internet.
On the internet. Okay. Well, I watched mine through Amazon. The Amazon version I watched was probably more or less the theatrical cut, so it did not have an intermission. But I'm wondering if that was what Kevin Costner, because Kevin Costner was the director of this film. I am wondering and I have seen that the film has been at 3.5 hours. I am thinking that maybe the film in the director's cut may have been have an intermission. Because it definitely deserved it. Because it is a long movie.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna say that it's not like it's not a lot. It's not like, oh my god, why is this movie taking forever? No, I never felt bored in the movie. There's a lot going on. it didn't feel boring to me. But I I will say this. I don't know about you. I'm not a huge Kevin Costner fan.
I wouldn't designate myself as a Kevin Costner fan either.
Yeah, because well, I mean, I've talked about my hatred of Lighter because I think that is a shitty fucking movie, which is also a Kevin Costner directed film. Um, obviously, I think this is a way better film than that. And there's Kevin Costner films that I do like. He is who's the actor I'm thinking of? He is he's the Gary Cooper of our time. And Gary Cooper back in the day, like he had some good films, just like Kevin Costner has had good films. Like I think like High Noon is a great film. The Pride of the Yankees, Sergeant York, those are all great Gary Cooper films. And Kevin Costner's had good films. I think this is an okay film. But like Kevin Costner's been in Bull Durham. That's a great film. He's been in Field of Dreams. That's a great film.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm
Oh
sorry.
no, yeah. Again, I wouldn't necessarily designate myself a Kevin Costner fan, although I do think he's a very talented actor. Yeah,
Yeah, he's very talented.
just
He's
really
good.
quickly, the version that I watched was almost 4 hours.
Okay, so yeah, so the one I watched was just over
Mm-hmm.
3 hours. So you watch a different version than I did. So you may have different things in the film that I saw because the one that was on Amazon was like I think like 3 hours and 25
Okay.
minutes.
Okay. I mean,
So
if
that's
you're
like another 40 minutes of content that I
well,
didn't
I mean,
get.
maybe if you're including the what is it? The intermission, that might account for the other. Wait, that might account for the other hour. You said that yours was like an hour,
So
like three and a half hours almost. So
yeah.
if there was like, let's say, a 15-minute intermission, or no, not a 15 minute.
So where in the story did the intermission hit
I think for you,
for
for
you?
me, I think it was I think just after the buffalo hunt.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense actually. So you had a whole on like classic like epic
Mm-hmm.
intermission like we would normally get like on like Ben
Mm-hmm.
Hur or
Yeah.
Spartacus or something
Mm-hmm.
like that, right? Okay, send me where you saw that because I want to see
Okay.
that link because I'm so
Okay.
curious
Oh.
of that.
But more or less, like because like the little clips and things that I saw, it more or less lined up with what I remembered watching. Although the only thing I didn't see was the very very beginning of the movie, where he was fighting the Civil War, and he makes that he makes that suicide run on the horse. Yeah, and
Yeah,
then I didn't see where he gets the positioning, the beginning part of his positioning the frontier fort, and like that the deranged commanding officer that kills himself.
yeah, that was so I got that part, which is there's a that deranged like commanding officer always says like I just pissed myself because he's like he's out of
Yeah.
his mind. Um, and so he sends him off to the frontier, but then I think yeah he ends up killing himself, and so like the idea of like sending reinforcements to that fort doesn't happen for
Mm-hmm.
years.
Right,
So
because the guy who took him there with the supplies, he gets killed by the
by the
Pawnee.
Pawnee,
Yeah, And so like he's not able to.
By West
Right,
Studi's
right.
tribe.
And he's not, and yeah, so he's not. So that guy, Timmons, I believe, is the character's name was. He wasn't allowed. He wasn't able to relay the message. That Costner's character had made it to the fort.
Yeah.
And so yeah, in the beginning, like as he's like writing in his journal, he's fully expecting to be reinforced.
All right, yeah, because that was the whole idea. It's like that he was going to go there, set up the fort, and that there was going to be reinforcements that would come, and they never did. And it was he waited for probably like 6 to 8 months.
In your
No one
in your
came.
version did you see the abandoning of the fort by the previous regiment?
No, it was empty when he got
Okay, so
there.
that's probably the little bit of extra that I got, because I got to see.
Oh wow! So now, no, now I definitely want to. So fuck. Now I'm gonna watch this movie again because you got a whole different version than I did. So I definitely want to see the version that you saw
Because I
because
see.
I did not
Yeah,
get that
because
at all.
there's at least what's left of the regiment that was at the fort, and all the enlisted men are pissed off at the officer stationed there, and then
Hmm.
and so like for whatever reason, maybe multiple Indian attacks, their numbers were decimated, and so it was finally the last straw, and so the officer asked he asked the ranking enlisted man to rally the troops, and he says oh, I know you guys are pissed off at me, I know you hate me, but you held tough, and so because of your dedication, we're gonna leave this place together, and so like they abandoned the fort.
What? That's why it's
Mm-hmm.
there. I thought it was just something that had been set up for a
Right.
while, and that he was wanting, or well, to be honest, the way it was
Mm-hmm.
framed in my version is Kevin Costner, like he is free of, he does his thing. He's free of the Civil War. He doesn't want to like be he's still a soldier, but he wants to be as far away from everything as
Right.
possible. And so he asked for
Very remote
a
post.
spot on the
Yeah, very
frontier.
remote posting.
Right. Yeah. So he goes there, and he's expecting there to be like eventually other soldiers that will be arriving, but he's the one that's setting everything up. And the place that he is there, it seems like if at first I thought he was the one that
Mm-hmm.
set it up, and that nobody came
Right.
at all. And that's the way that like my version comes out
I see.
as. So that's interesting. Now I'm like, now I have to watch this movie again because of that. It's a
Yeah,
long
it
movie.
is. I mean, I think it was directed by Costner too. So
Yeah. Now this is way better than White Earp because I was actually entertained and interested in like how this story
right.
goes. Because I think this is a interesting story. Whereas White Earp was a pile of dog shit. But this is actually really good.
Yeah, and this is
Um,
actually, well, I was gonna say like this. I think this was interesting too because um, that he became this. Uh, he was already disenchanted with his own society, but like as opposed to like all the other ones. But then I just remember like all the other like fish out of water tales like that are constantly referred to as like such and such, dances with wolves, but such and such. Um, it's the same thing. So
so the
I
one
take back my
the thing,
words.
yeah. So I think with this, because you could take this film as being like, oh well, this is just pro Native American against white culture, blah blah blah. But in reality, because the character that we're following is Kevin Costner's character, Lieutenant Dunbar, who ends up becoming the character. His Sioux name becomes Dances with Wolves, which is the title of the movie. But the thing is, he is so he's so against humanity at the point like where that's why he wants to go to this like super ass remote location, right? He's gone through this horrible war, nearly like lost his leg, nearly died, and he just when it came to, he just wanted to get away from everybody. He was tired of
Actually,
everything.
if I could
And
if
yes,
I could really quickly revise my statement, um, he didn't hate he didn't hate a society, but he became a misandrist. He hated he started hating people.
well, yeah, that's kind of what I meant too. Is like he hated
Yeah.
humanity. He didn't hate like his own
Right.
culture or
Yeah,
anything like that.
he
It was just like
stayed
he just didn't want
right
to be around
because he
anybody.
stayed in the army. He retained his rank, and he even took the offer of any posting he wanted. So that's not someone who hates his culture.
Yeah, he just wanted to be as far away from people
Right.
as
Yeah. So
possible.
yeah, because of his experiences, he developed misandry, the hatred of people.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, and that's kind of what I
Oh,
saw
I'm sorry,
in the film too.
misanthropy. I'm sorry, misanthropy. There we
Yeah,
go. Yeah,
misanthropy.
misanthropy.
Yeah. He was a
Mm-hmm.
misanthrope. Yeah, because he wanted to be as far away from people as
Mm-hmm.
possible, and when he was approached by the Sioux Indians, he was confrontational at first, not in a he wasn't
No,
trying to kill them, but
no, he was cautious.
he wanted them to go
He
away.
was cautious with them. He was cautious.
Yeah. But over time, he he ended up developing a relationship with them. So, and I think he came to find that they were, in his eyes, were a much more wholesome
Mm-hmm.
people, that he understood them. Whereas I don't think that he. Why do you think that he gravitated towards the Sioux Indians as opposed to his own culture? Like, what do you think happened there?
I think it might have been. I think it might have been just their interconnectedness. As opposed to even though he was in the army and he was a part of this organization, he's very much he was very much isolated. Him from his men, being an officer, you can't really fraternize with enlisted men. But then he felt distant from his direct superior in that kind of that worried major in the beginning, and then also from the upper echelons with the general. The general being on top of the hill, on top of with his horse and his spyglass surveying everything from a distance. So he and then also in the hospital where it's there it was pretty much hack him and hack slash and get him out of here. So they didn't really show
Maybe.
care for him.
Yeah, maybe. Because the thing is, like, what we don't get is his actual time in
Right.
the army, and like what he did, and
Right. We don't even know why
what it
he.
is.
Well, I mean, we can guess that he hurt himself in an attack or something, but why was he even at the hospital tent in the beginning?
Right, and then why did he choose? Well, we know that he doesn't want his
Right.
leg cut off. That we know that, but why does he go and like confront the Confederate soldiers the way that
Yeah.
he does, and just gives all abandon out like does he think that he's invincible at that point? Does he like is he just wanting to die? What is going on? Like that scene is a
Yeah,
little weird.
we don't fully comprehend like his state of mind.
Right. And the because he survives, like does he at that point he's like, well, I survived and I just want to go somewhere where I can just be alone with my thoughts and be alone with nature and maybe like God himself. I can just be
Mhm.
alone. Is that what he's trying to do? Because like the way that he approaches that situation, like it just looks like he's bleeding, he's he is beaten and damaged, and he throws his arms up like, and he's just all abandoned out on the horse, like Jesus on the
Mhm.
cross. I'm wondering if like there's some sort of symbolism there, like that's what he's going, like Costner was
Mhm.
going for, because he was just like looking to sacrifice himself for maybe the win for the Union. I don't know.
I don't think he was doing that in attempts to like gain a victory for the Union Army, or or the United States generally. I think, yeah, for whatever reason, like he had lost hope, and and that charge was really just reckless abandon. Like he didn't care if he lived or died, and I think part of him wished that he would die, and so and that's why he went for
That's
for that
yeah.
second charge. He's like, oh, no one shot me, and that no
That's
one
kind of what
shot
I was
me,
thinking too.
So it's like, okay, let's try, take two, and then and then you have the scene where like you have that one Confederate soldier lining up the shot, but then he gets taken out by a Union soldier,
Yeah, and
ostensibly
then like
saving his
the
life.
Union soldiers
Yeah,
charge because they are encouraged by his like reckless abandon. Who the fuck knows? It's some
but his
crazy.
charge gave them a distraction for them to advance.
Mm.
So yeah, it's not yeah. So it's
So
not clear
there's
why he essentially develops misanthropy. Because
yeah, it's just we just don't know like why he doesn't like people so much.
yeah, I mean, if it like maybe it's just like the horrors that he's seen, and then the final straw was like him being like treated like so dispensably, like at the hospital, saying like, oh, like yeah, we're just gonna have to cut it off.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really vague and not very well defined, like why he has a hatred of people, and or what causes him to have a hatred of people.
Why do you think that he developed such a like for the Sioux?
Mm. It could be just their simple living. I mean, that's not really super well defined either.
Yeah, because he hates his own. He wants to be away from
Mm-hmm.
conflict, right? And then the Sioux approach him at this at is I mean pretty much as far west as the United States has gone at that point in
Mm-hmm.
time, and he has a member of the Sioux approach him, and I mean it's not a friendly conversation. Obviously, they are kind of like they're both essentially attacking each other, but for some reason he grows this attachment to the Sioux. And I don't know why he does. And I was curious if like maybe your version has something that I missed, but It doesn't seem like I do.
Yeah, no. Yeah, even with my version, like with with ostensibly more material, like unless again maybe I miss something, but me being as observant of the person as I am, like I don't think I missed anything, and
Yeah,
it's not I don't fully understand why he developed such a an affinity for the Sioux people.
yeah, and not only at first it becomes like a friendship, but then it becomes an actual like he abandons essentially what would we would categorize it as his tribe. He abandons
Mm,
that to become a member of
right.
the Sioux, and he becomes one of
Mm,
them. Um, and I and so what's funny is that he meets a woman. One of the what gets him introduced to the Sioux is that he sees a woman who is a Sioux woman who has been assaulted in some form or way, and he brings her to the Sioux to heal her.
right.
And they don't want her. They don't want him anywhere around her, and she's healed. But
Oh,
eventually,
okay. That's
that's what
maybe
ends up
that's
becoming.
okay. Oh, you don't know why she. Okay.
Was it like the Pawnee that attacked her husband and her and like left her for dead?
Well,
We don't know what
well, I mean, I
happens.
might. In that because yeah, a war party is assembled and they go and they engage the Pawnee and this essentially abducted white woman who was abducted when she was a young child and raised among the Sioux people. um, yeah,
Yeah.
her husband was killed in one of the engagements, and so I think she was out when Kevin Costner happens upon her, with the cuts on her arm and the knife. I think like she was like doing some sort of mourning ritual.
Is that what's happening? Yeah, because it's so because it looks like she's bleeding to
Right? Yeah,
death.
like there's like blood, like her arm is like blood soaked, and she has like a knife in her hand.
Right.
So yeah, I think she was expressing grief. Somewhat, or maybe even trying to kill herself because she was so overcome with grief at the death of her husband.
Is that what was going on? Yeah, yeah. That was unclear too, because it just seemed like she was like abandoned in the
Mm-hmm.
prairie because like her husband was killed and like maybe she was stabbed to the point like where like but they just left her for dead.
Oh wait, but so you
And
saw them bringing her husband back, and she was like hysterical and she saw her husband's body and was like in hysterics. You saw that part?
I don't. I no. That's the thing. It's like you don't see that at
Oh,
all. We
okay.
just see Kevin Costner. We see Lieutenant Dunbar come across her body bleeding out, and he picks her up and is like, "Hey, well, I gotta." He knows that the Sioux are nearby, and he brings her body back to the Indian
Mm-hmm.
tribe. It's like she's hurt,
Okay.
she's
Well, yeah,
stabbed,
that's
she's she
yeah.
needs
What I
help.
just said about that the war party coming back with the body of her husband and her like in hysterics. That was the context of what happens in the following scene.
Oh, see, I didn't see that
Okay,
at
yeah. So that
all.
that would be the context of why she was off by herself and
Oh, wow. Okay. That yeah, see that's the and I don't know if I'm not sure if that's the
mhm,
theatrical cut that I watched or if it was like if you watched like the director's cut
mhm.
or whatever. But yeah, that. that would add a whole lot more context to the thing, and like as to why like they're so cruel to him when he brings her to the people. Yeah, there's seems like there's a couple different versions that help with make the film maybe better than what I saw, because it felt like the film was a little disjointed for
Okay.
me.
Yeah, when the stream.
And I'm already, like I said, I'm not a huge Kevin
Right.
Costner fan. Like I said, there are films of his that I do like, and I think that he has even his some of his lesser films. Like I'm like, okay, I mean I can see like where he's going for, but it just I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm not a huge fan of his.
Mm.
But what did you? Uh, so we have this guy, Lieutenant Dunbar, who goes from Union soldier to frontiersman, who becomes attached with the Sioux Indians, and kind of essentially works with them, and then is accosted by essentially by the Union soldiers, and is treated like a pariah, treated like an Indian, and then he's rescued by his real tribe, the Sioux Indians, and they go off into the wilderness. But he's still worried about what's going to happen to them because he's escaped, and he essentially abandons the group with his wife, who Mary McDonald's character, so that they can go and uh, they don't track Dunbar anymore. But that's kind of where the movie
Yeah.
ends, and we get like the
Okay.
epilogue of like the little sensing at the end that, oh well, it's all about the Americans ended up attacking, kind of taking over the area, and so on and so forth. Like what we would hear about in
Right.
U.S. history, in current U.S. history.
Right. Okay. Yeah, there's a bunch of different more context. Because um, what is it? Yeah, they decide that the tribe is, well, at least the version that I saw, the tribe is about to decides that they're gonna move on before the soldiers find them. Or no,
Right.
no, before because again, I don't know which, like the Pawnee the Pawn the
So they had beat the Pawnee because of how Kevin Costner had
right, with the
helped
guns.
them,
And so
and
they
then
decide,
it's almost wintertime, and they're moving towards the
right, the winter
winter
camp, and
camp.
then Kevin Costner forgot his journal back at the fort,
Fuck your
and then
journal, dude. Who gives
so
a
he
shit?
goes to go get it, but then to find that the fort became inhabited by a new army regiment, and then he gets captured.
Right.
Um, and so the version that I see, like, yeah, they decide that Kevin Costner and Mary McDonald have to break off. So the because of the attack, that his new adoptive tribe performs to rescue him, to
Yeah.
so that the tribe gets left alone, and they only you know try to track down Kevin Costner's character. They eventually decide to split up. But in my version, there's a little bit of misdirect where the army, you see the army approaching, and you think that, oh no, they're gonna catch him, but then, surprise, the tribe has already moved off from their initial winter camp to another camp, and then you see Kevin Costner's character and Mary McDonnell's character, riding off into the mountains.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't get that at all.
Yeah, and it's like there's like a little bit of tension between Wind and Hair and Kevin Costner's character because you know um, he kind of like the guy thing, like you don't want to admit that you're gonna miss your best friend. Yeah,
Mm.
and so
I do remember that. I do remember that, like where he's like, it's like you're my friend, like don't leave, like because they don't want him to leave because and the only reason he's leaving is because they're afraid that because he's leaving because Dances with Wolves is afraid that if he doesn't leave, the American army is going to come after
yeah,
him.
well
And
they're
if they come
essentially
after
gonna
him, they're
slaughter.
going to attack
Well,
him.
because the tribe helped them escape and murdered a lot of U.S. soldiers. Like
Right.
they're like if they find him, they're gonna kill the tribe too for just because of the association, and because of what they killed, since they killed U.S. soldiers to get Kevin Costner's character out of their imprisonment. And so
Right. Right.
and Kevin,
Yeah.
and he knows that the Dances with Wolves, Kevin Costner's character, he's the bigger prize because he's what is it, in their eyes, a turncoat, basically a traitor to the army, and so
Yeah.
he's the bigger prize for the army. So if they're busy tracking him, they're not tracking the tribe.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Uh. So. One thing about this was a super popular film. For 1990. I think it was like a $40 million film that made like 400 and some. It made a lot of money. It like made way over its
Mm-hmm.
budget. It did very well in theaters. This was also a film that it obviously had a huge cultural, political statement
Mm-hmm.
to it, and spoke to when it came to awards time. And I think it won. I know it won Best Picture. Did it win Best Director that year? I don't remember. I think because Kevin Costner was not only was he
Yeah,
the
he was the director.
star, but he was also the director. It did win 7 Academy Awards.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Hold on, let me see. List of
let's take a
accolades.
look. Yeah, because I do want to talk about because this is an important part of the film because I also want to ask, like, does this deserve its Best Picture Oscar? But I want to see, like, what did it win Best Director? Did it win all this stuff? Like, who, and maybe like who we think now that we're 30 what 35 34 years afterwards, like, does it deserve those? Because I think this is a good film, don't get me wrong. I did enjoy myself, but does it deserve Best Picture out of that year? You know what I mean?
Let's see. Okay, awards. Academy Awards. Best pick. Oh, it did. Oh yeah, and he won Best Director.
He won Best
Mm-hmm.
Director too. Okay.
And then Best Actor nominated but didn't win. Kevin Costner. Best Supporting Actor nominated but didn't win. Graham Greene. Best Supporting Actress Mary McDonnell, nominated but didn't win. Best Adapted Screenplay Michael Blake won. Best Art Direction nominated but didn't win. Best Cinematography for sure, yes. Um, They won for that best cinematography. Best costume design nominated, no, didn't win. Best film editing, they won for that one. Best original score and best sound, all winners. It was also nominated for it won. It nominated one American Cinema Editors, American Society of Cinematographers. It won. Oh, Japan Academy Prize, outstanding foreign language film. I mean, in terms for Japan, yeah. Didn't it was nominated for a bunch of BAFTAs, but didn't win any. Let's see what else.
Yeah, it's because what, like 1990, we had what, like Goodfellas, we had. I'm trying to think what else we had of from that year.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
I'm trying to
12.
think what else came like from like 1990, but like it just. Do you think that
Okay, so won 38 awards and was and additionally nominated. There's okay, so 38 awards, like they got awarded the prize, and then 64 nominations. So yeah, that's like little. That's more than I think that would be like more than 50% success rate.
okay, so the best picture for 1990, the 5 pictures that were nominated,
Mm-hmm.
you had Dances with Wolves,
Mm-hmm.
Awakenings, a film I've never seen,
Mm-hmm.
Ghost,
Heard of that?
The Godfather Part 3, yeah, no fucking way, and Goodfellas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if I, to be honest, 1990 is kind of a weak year. I think if I was gonna, as far as cultural significance,
Mm-hmm.
I would say Goodfellas wins from 1990. I think that's the film that has stood the test of time
Right.
because uh, Godfather Part 3 is kind of considered, maybe because of the first two being so awesome,
Uh-huh.
Part 3 is not good. So a
Mm.
lot of people are not going to think about that.
Right. So, but you mean by
Oh,
by
oh, oh,
comparison? By comparison.
so yeah, so I'm just thinking of like, okay, so you have Awakenings. Has anyone heard of that film? I haven't. I've never seen it. I've never even heard of it.
Nor I.
Yeah, Ghost. We know of Ghost.
Uh-huh.
Ghost is a good movie.
Yeah.
But is that better than Dances with Wolves or Goodfellas? No. So to me, it's Dances with Wolves or Goodfellas is the film of the year. It's between those two.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the test of time, and I'm not saying that like Goodfellas is or Dances with Wolves is a bad movie. It's
Mm-hmm.
not. But if I was going to like reevaluate 34 years later,
Mm-hmm.
Goodfellas, I think, has become the more significant film. And so I would maybe choose that as the best picture. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe back then, because of like what with the whole like Native American thing going on, I don't know, but it's just it just doesn't feel it. Would you have picked that for the best picture of that
Against
year?
Goodfellas?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah, again, this is not to throw shade at Dances with Wolves, but if I, I mean, yeah, I know
Of those films that were
the irony is delicious, but put a gun to my head, I'm thinking Goodfellas.
yeah, of those films that were chosen for Best Picture,
Yeah,
what's the film out of there that everyone's watching consistently over the past 34 years?
yeah, Goodfellas.
Yeah, exactly. Bingo.
Yeah, I mean, even just
And
like
that's a long film too. That's like a 2.5 hour film. It's a
yeah, and
long
I mean,
film.
what is it? In the space of movie like reactions, like young people who are watching older films, like I can't tell you how many times like I've seen like in my recommendations, um, videos for people first time reacting to Goodfellas. Like I've seen plenty of those. And
Exactly.
haven't seen too many reaction to Dances with Wolves. But again, like
Yeah, no.
not taking anything away from Dances with Wolves. I would say that Goodfellas is the superior movie of the two.
Yeah, but yeah. So as far as Dances with Wolves go,
Uh-huh.
how did you like it? How would you rate it? What did you think about it?
I did it. I
What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it?
I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the movie. I think again, I'm the technical guy. I think technically this movie was absolutely beautiful. The cinematography, the sound design, um, the costuming, everything. All the technical things really helped elevate help elevate the movie. Um, what I didn't like about it was how there isn't really strong motivations for the characters, or particularly Kevin Costner's character. We don't understand like why he develops this misanthropy and like wants to get away from people. When he ostensibly becomes a hero. He's the guy who led the charge on the Confederates, and he was able to
Yeah.
he was rewarded by with being able to keep his leg and also the pick of his next posting. Um,
Yeah, that's not really clearly defined, and essentially, you can say like he became like a liberal before like a liberal was a thing.
right. Also, this is yeah. It's a weird point of contention when just before they decide to move the camp to the winter location. I think there's a voiceover narration from him as though he's writing in his journal. Yet he then says, "I don't have my journal with me."
So yeah, I think like I think all the journal entries like and the reason like why we're hearing that because he does get his journal back at the end, but
Oh, so you're saying that this is a story read back to us from his journal.
yeah, the entire story is read back to us
I see.
because he does get his journal back from
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
God,
from
what
Otter.
was that chick's name?
No, it was a
Like
boy. Otter.
some yeah, like he Dances with Wolves gets his journal back
Hmm.
at the end of the film before he takes off from the Sioux,
Hmm.
and although it's damaged by water,
Uh-huh.
he's still able to write in it.
Yeah, or I don't know, but like the whole purpose of like the whole like journal narration thing is that you're doing it concurrently,
Mm,
you know? So you can't have a voiceover narration like as you're like you're writing in a journal, but then like in the very next scene be like, "Oh, I don't have my journal with me."
true.
So I think that might have been a slight oversight. Um, uh, but otherwise, I don't have too many complaints. Yeah, the story is a bit weak. Character development isn't super tight.
It's just more of like, it's not that like it's just like, I think there's a certain area where I wanted more of certain things,
Mhm.
and we just didn't get them. That's all.
Right. I mean, yeah, because like with the whole like journal narration trope, like I think Last Samurai does it way better than Dances with Wolves
Mm-hmm.
because it's like
Mm-hmm.
when in Last Samurai, it's concurrent. Like he's writing entries while in captivity, and it's like it's happen. He's writing it down as it's happening, as opposed to like him like
Yep.
compiling a journal later in in his life like a memoir.
Yeah.
Um, so
But yeah, let's give her a rating for Dances with Wolves. What do you think about it, Andy?
yeah, I mean, I still
This is your choice, even though neither of us had watched it.
yeah
So
yeah, and I mean you have to watch it again for the version that I watched.
yeah, no, but I'm curious. I'm curious to see if like maybe there's something more. Maybe my rating will go up. So I'll let you know next week.
Okay. Yeah. I think all things considered, I'd probably give this a 3.5, maybe a 4. Because I think because again, this is my first time watching this movie, and so maybe maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe there's a perfectly valid reason why he hates. He develops misanthropy, and he wants to be alone out in the frontier. Maybe I have to watch it. Maybe I have to watch this movie again. But as it stands right now, I think I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
Okay. Yeah, if I was gonna say anything, like I think like he hated humanity because he had been at war for so
Right, which
long,
is a pretty
and his
easy
obviously
understanding.
like he had been injured in war, and it took him being alone, realizing that maybe he needed company, and when the Sioux approached him and showed that they are not quite as hostile as the soldiers that he had been accustomed to were.
Or like the media, made him out to be fake news.
Yeah, so it's possible that he developed a comfort to them, and that's why he grew so close to them. So I don't know, but overall I like the movie too. I would say I'm gonna come slightly in under you, and maybe because I'm missing some context that I didn't get in my version. So I'm gonna go with a 3
Okay.
on this one.
All right.
I do not think this was deserving of Best Picture. I think Goodfellas is the film that has stood the test of time greater than this one,
Mm-hmm.
but this is still a film that is good, that is worth watching, that I think you're gonna get something out of and have a good time with.
Yeah. You know what? Okay. If I'm to parse out my words, I would say Dances with the Wolves is deserving of Best Picture on the merit of its technical achievements, like cinematography, sound design,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
this movie is it's a gorgeous movie to look at just visually. So like for technical reasons, I think
Oh yeah, Costner. Yeah, Costner did not do a bad job as director. I think he did an amazing
right.
job.
So technically, from a technical standpoint, I do think it's deserving of Best Picture. But I think in terms of storytelling, Goodfellas deserves Best Picture.
Let's say this: like, if you had a chance to like own Dances with Wolves, and like you had like the ultimate, like whatever ultimate version there was of it, with all the like the great special features and like learning how like the film got made, do you think you would enjoy it more?
Not necessarily.
Okay, all right.
Not necessarily.
Just asking.
Because again, I think the case for the technical achievement is, it's self evident. So I don't think knowing about, like,
Okay, yeah, but that's
yeah,
true.
not
Yeah.
know like knowing, what lens they used, and, like, using, like, specific math to, like, time, like, the sunset, the perfect time, and getting the lighting right is not gonna make it's not gonna elevate my opinion on the movie.
Well, I will say from what I did learn about the film is that there was one match shot that was used, but the majority of it was practical
Yeah,
shots.
I believe that.
So the buffalo hunt, there was a match shot used
Yeah,
there.
because there's no way, like, in real life, they would have able to have come upon, like, that many buffalo, for that shot.
Mm-hmm.
So understandable.
Yeah. But other than that, yeah. I mean, it's looks
Mhm.
fantastic. Great movie. Had a good time with it. Can't complain. Uh, 3.5 for Andy, 3 for me. Good shit. Good stuff.
Yeah, there you go, folks.
Good fish out of water
Yeah,
movie.
there you go, folks. That's our review for Dance with Wolves. Robert gives it a 3. I give it a 3.5. It's an enjoyable movie for sure. Um, you know, um, you know, I would recommend. I would recommend Dance with Wolves.
Yeah. How are we gonna finish off the month next week? What are we doing?
What do we agree? What did we agree
Or wait, is that no? We have 2 weeks left, right?
No, I think it's 1 week. Wait, do we? No, let me check this calendar
Is it?
real fast. No, we only have next week, and that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. What are we doing next week?
We are doing
We're
Pathfinder.
doing
Yeah,
Pathfinder,
starring
right?
Carl
Okay.
Urban from, I forget when. It was like kind of like mid 2000s, like the teens.
Sweet. Carl
Yeah.
Urban, love it. Let's dive into it. We're gonna have a good time.
Awesome. All right, folks. With that concludes our stream for tonight. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. I know Rob always has a good time.
Tuesday's my favorite day of the week.
And I hope it's your favorite day of the week too. If nothing else, then for us. If you enjoyed this stream, don't forget to check out the library of other content that we have. The Circulator's main podcast, old episodes of Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, with their movie reviews, and Rob's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, formerly Twitter, now X, and Letterboxd at Podcast EOJ, and Instagram at Circular Jerks Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you for joining us. Come back next week, and we'll do it all over again. Have a good night.